I heard a phrase recently that someone said that I was like, wow, I love that. It said, we're living in a museum of other people's ideas. Like cup, like someone else chose the word for this. I didn't name this cup. I learned that it was called cup. Desk, chair, Aaron, the English language. Like I was taught all these things. I didn't make any of them up myself. So it's like everything is a museum of past ideas from other people. And that's in the sense why we don't see reality or we don't see the present moment, because it's plastered with labels and ideas of what other people before us thought. And we've just like borrowed their thoughts. Kind of a wild idea to contemplate.
Right. I love that. Yeah.
Undeniably true though.
Right. The don't know, the unknowing is what makes, in a way, these labels melt. And then there's the perfection the freedom that everything always is. And it's fine to use that word cup. It's just it's what's appearing, but it's great to, in a way, undermine a box that has been so strongly that it's kind of, in a way, it's like a name. A name is a very strong box. And so and undermining it and the freedom that can come from the undermining of that kind of that contraction around that label. That's a good way to say it too. Yeah. Nice.
I love also the conversation about freedom warring you mentioned. That's a hard one for people to intellectually understand what we mean when we say there's no war in reality. There's no death in reality. There's no abuse in reality. So these things are illusions, you might call them. And that would really upset a lot of people to say that, because they're like, how dare you say all the Palestinians getting slaughtered right now are just illusions? So it's important for me to, I always try to clarify what we mean when we say that, because we can toss around these highly philosophical statements and not really do justice explaining them all the time. And I think sometimes things are better left unsaid if they're not explained well. So when we say that, what we're not saying is people aren't experiencing all the terror they're experiencing, the pain and the suffering and the death. We're not saying that they aren't experiencing that. We're saying that what is real and actual is eternal and incorruptible, can't be harmed. It's forever. And the basis of true love and to love anyone has to begin with you perceiving that eternal element in them that is imperishable and perfect and divine. It's an extension of Creator, and it is to be valued as that always. So I'm not going to diminish you down in my mind, in my perception of you, to this delicate little body that's getting blasted out of existence, and poor you little victim. To me, that's like an attack on that being, because I see a perfect divine being in my awareness. And so although I will always strive to protect everyone from harm that I can, that's what love does. At the same time, if someone dies in my world, I don't really experience it as death, because I never experienced them as a body. I always experienced the eternal dimension of them like I do in myself. So when we say that war isn't happening in reality, we mean that insanity, under what we could call sanity or natural law, there's no possibility of something like war, right? Because everything is one, everything is connected, everything exists in relationship. There's only one energy in the universe. There's only one mind, one being in the universe. So it can't go to war with itself or against itself. That doesn't have meaning, right? The war happens in the dream of separateness, when humans are under the insane idea that we're separate from each other, and therefore you might be a threat to me and this and that. We form tribes, and then eventually we go to war. That's all like a person in a straitjacket talking to themselves. You know what I mean? We would never tell an insane person in a psych ward who's talking to themselves and terrified of the big green goblin chasing them. We would never say that they're not experiencing that, because clearly the poor soul is. Look at them running around the hallway screaming by themselves. We understand they're deeply suffering. And so there's compassion. And yet we are awake in reality, where we know there's no green goblin chasing that person. See, so that's what we mean when we say there's no war in reality. Humanity is dreaming it together and co-creating it together by violating every natural law there is, and that's why it creates so much karma when we have things like war, child trafficking, abuse. we just keep creating more karma for ourselves. So that's why, to me, I'm very interested in looking at humanity's shadows and not just avoiding them, saying, well, I'm just going to meditate and be spiritual by myself. Good luck, world. It doesn't feel loving to me to do that. So I want to pay attention to what's happening in the world so I can bring my light and love and forgiveness to it. But I definitely don't want to fix my attention on what's happening in the world and get drawn into the negative elements, right? I want to stay detached in the sense of my identification with the world, you know, as something to be feared or whatever. I never fear what's happening in the world, but I also want to know where the light needs to be sent. You know, otherwise, how can I really be an agent of change on this planet? So I think there's a parallel there between when I really want to look at my shadows, you know, like I'm not afraid for something to come up anymore. In fact, I look forward to things manifesting so I can heal and correct them. In the same way, when I arrive at that disposition in myself, I will simultaneously arrive at that disposition towards the world, because my world is me. You know, there isn't a duality of inner world, outer world. There's just one world. And so what's happening outside of me also feels like a part of me. You know, so I take partial responsibility for it in the sense of that needs healing and light. So all these different forms of corruption we could talk about, right? There does come a natural sense of righteousness and truth in you that you're like, we're not going to stand for that anymore. That's not loving. That's enslaving humanity. That's contributing to suffering. Let's get rid of that. And let's build something beautiful and true in its place. That has to come from a heart of love, right? It can't come from an angry heart full of hatred and judgment towards the deep state and the Illuminati. You can't really create positive change with either fear or anger towards that energy. There has to be a forgiveness of it, of like, look, there's nobody really to blame. Humanity built this monster. You know, this is a collective manifestation of all of our greed and selfishness over millennia. So why waste time being angry at somebody? Let's just get down to the work, right? And start healing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's something that is so free can appear the way that it is appearing.
Yeah.
And that's the miracle. And it's always here. And as long as there's like only like the me that is separate and lacking wants to control the appearance because it feels like it's wrong. And it's not wrong. Mm-hmm. It's that
it's actually perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And then whatever is coming through that is new to build just comes through effortlessly to build. And it's not someone doing it anymore. It's just that there's been so much dissolution of the center point that now is just a spontaneous building of what's new.
Yeah.
Of the most beautiful thing imaginable. Basic needs for everyone. People being free, play, joy, abundance for all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's just emerging. You know, it's just emerging out of the metaphysics of what's happening on the planet and in consciousness, you know, for thousands of years. Humanity is like finally at that place where we've kind of learned our lessons after repeating them so many times, and we're like crying out for help from the universe, you know, like help, we're not doing great down here. We're in fact kind of on the brink of annihilation. It took, you know, sometimes it takes that extreme to wake consciousness up to itself to say, oh, I've got to turn around and go the other direction. So whenever it happens, it's perfect because that's what the universe wanted to experience. Like, as you know, in the Law of One, through our planet is an experiment. The Logos is running. And so maybe on our experiment, the Logos turned up the negative polarity dial a bit so that we'd have a little more negative polarity energy throughout our history than other planets maybe do. Seems to be what Ra kind of alludes to, right? But that's still an experiment of how will the light overcome that challenge? How will the light overcome that difficulty? And it always does in the end. So it's always a good movie, right? With a great ending. But there's that climax period that we're in right now that can be pretty, you know, you're gripping your seat a little bit.
Yeah.
It's fun, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the perfection that it always has been, and then the beauty of the role that the body plays in shepherding that new and that beautiful, the free, abundant. It's so exciting, man, and it was always been there when we're kids. When we're kids, it was always there, like these basic needs being met, and it's like, what does a kid do but wake up? And especially like in the summer or whatever, like it's kids waking up, and it's like, how do we want to play today?
Yeah,
and like to have that be where adults are at, they're waking up, everything's met. All right, so let's do, because we'll spend some time on that New Earth architectures and communities and whatnot. We'll spend some time on that. Give us the bit, because I'm excited to also talk about actual, like, the mechanism, like the home DAO is the mechanism that we designed to help make that transition, and tokens actually being backed by these basic needs infrastructures. So rather than being backed by nothing. So this is so it's great that we have
everything's backed by nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I love it. It's great.
I love a good non-dual gotcha.
Everything's backed by nothing. Yeah. This is so good. So
someone in the audience just like reached Satori. So good, man.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Like we have we have an what is an evolution of currency graphic on on the Home DAO website, and can you see that? Okay.
Yeah, I can.
You can see it. Cool.
Bitcoin's pumping today too, by the way.
Is it?
Have you seen that? It reached 38.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Let's go New Earth.
Let's go New Earth, baby. Yeah, we spent some time designing this because, and this is sort of what you're referencing also in terms of understanding the old monetary systems, because the old monetary systems, and you just talked about this on another pod that you did, just that instead of having to carry around all of the stuff, you could carry around the coin. And then the coin can exchange whatever you would like.
And then it became a paper bill. Yeah.
And then now it's, instead of having centralized banks and centralized governments, now there's a decentralized unit of exchange. Bitcoins, cryptocurrencies. But that's the other thing, is that they're not backed by anything.
Right.
And tokens. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
On that note that they're not backed by anything, think about how it's interesting. We call it a bill, a dollar bill. What's a bill? What is a bill?
Something that you have to pay.
If you get a bill,
you have to pay.
Yeah, it's a promise to pay or a request to pay. So that's their IOUs, right? They're paper IOUs. They're debt notes, you might call them. They don't have any value. They're a exchange, a negotiable instrument.
Yep.
And so what are we told to pay our debts with? Those IOU bills, which are supposed to have equivalent amount of gold, right? So you exchange the IOU, and the bank has to say, okay, this is a bill for us. We owe this person $20 of gold because this is a $20 bill. I'm being billed for $20 of gold. The bank is, not you. And so then they give you $20 worth of gold. So you're giving them the bill that they pay you. And it's the opposite, isn't it? We pay with debt notes. They charge us debt notes for everything. And really, that's us. If I give somebody a bunch of debt notes, they're supposed to give me back gold in that value because it's just an IOU, a paper IOU. And so what happens? You just pay a company a bunch of dollar bills, and then you get nothing in return, right? So this is part of the way that the financial system has been flipped upside down to where we are actually the creditors, and they're the debtors, like the government's the debtor, even according to like the 1933 Emergency Banking Relief Act, where the United States went bankrupt and they basically asked all the citizens to return their gold. Was it Roosevelt, I believe? Roosevelt requested everyone turn in your gold. We have to pay off this debt. We're bankrupt. We're insolvent, right? And that's when the dollar went off the gold standard because the United States went insolvent. So now they're like, well, don't worry. Like, we'll just keep printing these IOU bills and we'll just use that to exchange and do business and stuff. And so now they have this ability secretly by pretending they went insolvent on purpose is what I'm saying. They went bankrupt on purpose to the Fed so that they could have a good excuse to say, give us your gold. We're going to take the dollar off the gold standard because now we can just print as much as we want. We have a monopoly printing machine and we're all playing Monopoly, but I've got a money printing machine and I'm just printing out bills like crazy, and buying up properties with them and stuff. So that's the micro of our world. In the macro is that the banking system works only for the elites, you might call them, financial elites, where all the money keeps getting siphoned to the 1%. And like you've probably seen this stat of the, was it $12 trillion printed over the pandemic, 2 to 3 years? 90% of it wound up in the hands of millionaires or billionaires. So that'd be like, $10.5 trillion went to the top 1%. So it's like, you see there, it's the game that they're playing and they just have to keep this illusion going through propaganda and whatever else that, you need to pay your taxes and this is just the way it is. And life is getting harder and harder. The dollar's getting inflated more and more. So our buying power is going down. It's like, guys, when are we going to all stop and say, let's all put your money down? Okay. We're being cheated. Let's stop playing the game where we're being cheated. Let's try to reestablish fair rules to the game because we're all getting effed right now. And so that's what humanity is doing through this kind of common law movement. So much of this has to be about building parallel systems. And it's the reason I love this is because it's a perfect mirror to how you transcend your own ego is exactly how humanity has to transcend our collective ego, which is like the government structure we've built that has this top-down control, wants to control everything it can get its hands on. That's our collective ego we've built to rule over us.
Yeah, daddy government.
Yeah.
Mommy government.
I'll do whatever you say. Even though all you do is betray me and steal my money, I'll still serve you. Yeah.
Please take all of this taxpayer dollar and fuel it into the military-industrial complex.
Military-industrial complex, child trafficking, you name it. Yeah, you're paying for that stuff, right? It's like, why are you paying these people still? So in that conversation, right, we have to acknowledge the problem first. That's self-awareness. And that's what everyone who uses the term conspiracy theorist is still on that side of the awareness spectrum, where everyone who's choosing to just acknowledge reality and be like, all right, this sucks to admit, but child traffickers run the world. It's just a fact. The people who haven't seen that yet or don't have the courage to accept that yet, that like all the most powerful people in the world, a huge majority of them are like hardcore child traffickers, right? That's a hard reality to accept. I certainly don't want that to be true. I wish it wasn't true. But if I want to heal humanity, I have to begin by accepting that it is true right now. So how do we bring healing to that? Well, first we got to bring awareness to it. So there's movies like The Sound of Freedom that just came out that like broke all these box office records with a tiny little budget. It shows that the collective consciousness of humanity is more and more saying yes to acknowledging these dark truths and looking at our shadow. But people who don't want to look at the shadow will call all those people conspiracy theorists. So it's like, like gaslighting yourself or something. You clearly have this gigantic narcissistic tendency. And every time you notice it, your mind's like, oh, come on, you're not a narcissist. Like, that's crazy to think that. You're just confident. You're like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you like don't want to look at that shadow, and you've given yourself an excuse not to. So I see this mirror happening everywhere, right? Of what happens within the individual's evolution is exactly what happens at the macro level, but in like bigger ways. So it's harder to see. Like mainstream media is another manifestation of the human ego, the part of us that tells us what we want to believe. And the information that's convenient, that's controllable, that's what our ego loves to tell us. And that's what the mainstream media does. So there's all these parallels in the systems we've built. We've literally built an external reflection of the human ego in our government, in our monetary system, in our food system, in our healthcare system. We do to humanity exactly what the individual ego does to the individual. And that's why I always say law is 100% spiritual to me. When I talk about law, we're really talking about natural law. All law is natural law. eternal truth, right? It can't be violated. It can't be broken or changed. And so that's 100% spiritual. But even beyond that, like, law is non-physical. We all know that. I can't be like, hey, Atlas, can you please hand me a law and put it in my hand? And you're like, here you go. Here's US Code 18273. And there it is. No, right? It's non-physical. And what is non-physical is spiritual, we could call it, right? So law is spiritual because it's all about knowing who you are, common law. It has to begin with knowing who you are. And from there, you understand what your rights are. So I am a child of the Creator. I am made by God. And I am endowed with the free will that God itself has. These kind of basic things. But because there's only God, that means everyone else is God too. Everyone else is equal under God's eyes. So all should be treated equally. And that's like basic morality 101 that nobody on any side would disagree with. Even the negatively polarized elites of the world, let's say, who are running the World Economic Forum and have the worst plans for humanity, even they would give lip service to that, right? And be like, everyone's equal. All should be treated fairly. The negative path will still say that. But if we don't recognize it, we'll keep creating these systems that enslave us because we're not really aware of the equality of all beings. Like, and these are the basic needs you're talking about, that until we can meet everyone's basic needs, we should have no other priority, let alone be sending $100 billion to Ukraine and to Israel for foreign wars. Like, these things should be upsetting to everyone because it should be seen as, this is crazy. We don't even have our basic needs met, and we're spending how much money to kill people overseas?
Love it. Yeah, exactly.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching today's video. I hope that you were truly blessed by it. And I wanted to let you know that I'm really excited to now be partnering with an amazing conscious supplement company called ORGANIFI. A lot of you know that I'm also passionate about holistic health and nutrition, and ORGANIFI has been a staple in my daily health routine for a very long time. They make the most delicious, organic, and high-quality superfood products that I've ever come across. And as you know, a healthy body is a great benefit for spiritual growth because the health of your body directly translates to the health of your mind. Everything is connected. So feeding your body with high vibrational superfoods straight from the earth is one of the best ways to create that environment for a healthy mind. But getting all the superfoods that your body needs in one day can admittedly be a little bit tough. And that is where ORGANIFI can add a ton of value to your life. I personally start every day off with green, which is ORGANIFI's really delicious blend of 11 superfoods like ashwagandha, chlorella, and moringa. And then in the middle of the day, I'll usually have a scoop of red, which is a delicious energy blend full of 13 adaptogens and antioxidants from berries to recharge your mind and body with a delicious blend of organic superfoods. Your body is an amazing organic machine, but it needs the right fuel and signals to function at its best. And red is full of adaptogens sourced from organic herbs and medicinal mushrooms. And these are compounds that balance hormones, prime your energy pathways, and alleviate stress. So instead of crushing your adrenal system with huge doses of caffeine every day, adaptogens work with your body and give you natural, sustained energy all throughout the day. What's most important to me though about ORGANIFI is the way that they go above and beyond to ensure the cleanest and purest ingredients in all of their products. They are USDA certified organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, certified glyphosate-free, and absolutely zero fillers. So I never go anywhere without ORGANIFI, and I never miss a day without taking it. And ORGANIFI is offering a super generous discount of 20% off of your entire order when you use the coupon code Abke at checkout. So if you want to upgrade your health regimen with ORGANIFI, you can click on the link in the description box below to learn more about all the amazing products that they offer. And I promise you that your mind and your body are going to thank you for it.